Today we are going to discuss travel insurance. Now, I had to kind of reorganize and revamp how I did some things on the website because of functionality purposes. So I'm going to walk you through how to get to the actual tool that I use in order to book my travel insurance. But before we go there, actually we will go there first. So here we are. Let me first walk you through going to the website. So www.thetravelplex.com. Okay, so many of you came into this opportunity through the Critique Travel website. And the Critique Travel website is my catch-all website. It's for anybody. If you are looking for just trying to find a really reasonable rate to go anywhere, you can go there. If you are looking at, in general, tips for how to travel and for reviews on places that I have traveled, then that is your go-to resource. Okay, but the Travelplex was birthed out of a means to be able to set apart this particular trip and the information that is pertaining to this particular trip. Because this trip, again, is not for everyone. It's for the chosen ones. So if you are listening to this, you are clearly one of them, and you are one of the savvy chosen ones who are like me, want to be good stewards of the resources that God has given you. Okay, so now that we're at the website, where I want to take you to kind of help launch you into understanding how you can get access to the tool that I'm using. So I need you to go to the frequently asked questions. And when you come here, I need you to click on how the travel purse works. Okay, so for functionality purposes, I had to add a link to the actual video, and it's a link to this specific video, but I'm using this as an example so that when I upload the video you are currently watching, you will know how to access the actual tool that you will need to use in order to get your travel insurance. And we are going to go there as well, and I'll show you how to utilize the tool that we're going to use, or at least how I have utilized it. So you see this link below. This is the link, the direct link. Well, actually what it's going to do is open up a new tab in the same website. So we're going to click on that so you can see. Okay, so this brings you to a new tab in the same website. It's going to bring up the same website. So what you would actually have to do, and my screen is way too large, so I'm going to see if I can zoom out. See if I can zoom out a little bit more. Okay, so it really is not going to help me do it that way. Okay, so now you see how this is open. Come here and click on Rumble.
Tanzania, and what all that covers,
and I'm gonna
and
cut
how the travel purse will work.
this off.
So before we get started, I want to bring.
So what you'll have to do is play the video because it's going to take up the whole screen. Definitely if you're on a Mac computer. Now, it may function differently on a IBM or PC compatible computer, but you have to click on this Rumble. That will bring the video up in Rumble. Now, another option you can do, because I did provide the link, and I guess I should show that as well. Okay, so I did provide the actual link. So another option is you can FAQ, and then you can just skip that whole extra set of work that I just shared with you by just and minimize your clicks by going there. And you can, and I'm not going to do it because I already have the link I want to go to next. Hopefully I still have it copied. But you can just copy this. You can simply do this and control Command C if you are using Mac, and I think it's Control C if you're using an IBM compatible. And then paste, so you copy it and then you can Control V or Command V that website in your web browser here. So I'm going to Command V because now, actually I already did that. Okay, so that means, so you see what I'm saying. So that's all you do is that, and that will take you to oh, actually no. So you still have to do it the way I said the first time. It won't take you directly where I want you to go. Okay, so we're going to go to the link that I want you to go to, and so I'm just going to show you through what I actually use. No, that's not where I want to go. So we're going to go to the tool. So here's the tool, and this link that you're looking at, I am going to have it available for you on the Rumble website, which is why we went through that whole process to make sure you go to Rumble. See here, I can actually put description. In the description below, I will put the link to the tool that I use to purchase my travel insurance. And I'm sorry, y'all, I'm going through all this, but look, the whole bottom line is we want to make sure we're kingdom minded, that we're spending money where it's absolutely necessary. And so any money that I have to now spend on getting rid of the things that make me have to go these extra steps means that I have to incorporate that cost in my expenses, which then translates to incurring more cost for my customer. And my goal is not to make your expenses higher. Of course, I could always pay the extra money and get the banners removed and probably get a lot more usability from the website from a perspective of finances. But remember, again, my goal really is I enjoy traveling and I enjoy being able to be in a position to help other people travel the way we do. And I feel like it's more of a calling for me, that this is my way of putting in the work to be a part of fulfilling the plan of God for my life, and at the same time helping others fulfill the plan of God for their lives. So with that being said, I'm not really trying to reach a crowd of people. I'm trying to reach the chosen people. And so with reaching the chosen people, they're going to receive access to some tools that, you know, in a way that the world says it can't be done. Well, look, I'm about to prove to you it can be done, because for the last 11 trips that I've taken to Israel, 10 specifically, I have seen the blessing and the benefit in putting in the work where it needs to be put and minimizing the expense where it's not necessary, and seeing how that has allowed me to have access to opportunities that a lot of people aren't able to take advantage of for more than once in a lifetime, much less 11 times in a lifetime. And that requires being being specific and strategic in your approach. And so with that being stated, here is the website. Now, I will make known to you in full disclosure, just like it does on a previous link on my frequently asked questions, is that I am an affiliate, a paid affiliate. Now, of course, I have not yet gotten paid yet because I haven't produced the number of volume of link backs or uses to be receiving a regular check. But the bottom line is support of this website supports me. And I just thank you in advance for doing that, because it just makes sense to me that the people who are helping us should be the one who should benefit from it. Now, just to let you know, I am not endorsing, nor do, this is a tool. So this does not endorse a specific insurance company. So rest assured that that is not what my purpose is. I'm not trying to promote a specific website or a specific insurance company. This is basically a tool that will allow you to be able to see all of the offerings for the specific trip that you're wanting to take. And so, with that being stated, the reason why I like using this tool versus purchasing the insurance at the time that you buy your ticket is that when you buy your ticket, your insurance that you're purchasing is specifically for that flight only. It does not cover accidental death insurance, it does not cover medical coverage. Some of them may actually cover a certain degree of medical coverage, so I may have to backtrack on that just a tad. Not all of them do, though. They're not comprehensive insurance packages. The primary purpose of those insurance provisions are for your ticket, and I have found that actually, when you look at what you're getting, and even sometimes when you're not looking at what you're getting, they're higher, which I would expect that because I'm sure they're getting a much larger kickback since the level of volume that they cover is a lot more massive. And they take advantage of people who just simply don't know that there are other options or don't have the time to look into them. But if you spend just a little bit of time using the tool that I'm going to provide to you, you will see where it's much more user friendly and it's much more comprehensive. So let's be clear. If you had to stop, cut, or forego your ticket, though it is probably the highest expense of your trip, it's not the only thing you want to cover. You've probably already secured you a place to stay, accommodations, and sometimes if you're going for the really good deals, some of those may be non-refundable. So you wanted to incorporate that. You wanted to incorporate accidental death insurance because let's face it, if you are the primary worker in your home, which typically you would be, whether you're traveling solo or you're traveling as a couple. If you have children, then you're the provider. You want to make sure that provision is accessible to them in the event something happens to you. So accidental death insurance is one of the things you can get. COVID coverage. Now that you have COVID being an issue, there are times when countries may be closed now, and you may have to forego your flight, not because of yourself, just because of the situation, and not just your flight. So, again, this is not just covering your flight because technically, if a country closes and you're supposed to fly out, the airline should reimburse you or offer you a travel voucher because that has nothing to do with you. That country made a decision to do something, and so therefore you cannot fulfill your desire for the trip. So therefore that shouldn't even be something you have to have insured. So let's be clear. Let's kind of cover while we're in this, that which should be covered by the airline in the event of emergency. That's why it's often important not to get so focused on, oh, I don't, what if this happens? What if that happens? Because many of the things that can happen are not on you to cover. It's just like if you have a problem with your water pipes at home, from the road to your house is not your business. In other words, it is not your responsibility. You are not going to be responsible for having to repair or fix any pipes that are within the jurisdiction of your municipality, your parish area if you're in Louisiana, and your county area if you're in any other state. So the same goes with booking a trip. If a country closes, this is not on you. You cannot go because the country is closed. So therefore, what the responsibility is of an airline is to say, okay, we will give you a travel voucher, which means that you still technically don't have access to your funds. But what you'll have instead is the ability to use those funds towards a ticket at a later time. And lots of times they give you about a year to be able to use it. And if they have to extend it, just like we did for COVID, that can be extended for another year. And they will do that because that is not your fault that you're unable to go. However, just like that water analogy, if the problem exists from the hookup to your house, well, then that's your responsibility. Which means that if you cannot go because for unbeknownst reasons to you, you fall ill, someone in your family falls ill, or you have a death that you suffer, or you lose your job and just can't afford to take the trip any longer, or whatever number of issues that can arise that can prohibit you from being able to take this trip. That is what insurance is for. Now, always read the fine print. And so, although we're going to cover, somewhat comprehensively how this tool that I'm sharing with you works, and what I will provide for you to help you be able to accommodate making sure you're covering the amount you have to be concerned with, because this should also cover things like, for instance, everything that had to do with your trip. So if you got to get a rental car, if you have to park your car at a park and pay type service at the airport, which most of us will have to do that. So that means you have incurred an additional expense because you have to pay per day that is there. So it'll cover a lot more than what you're going to have just with that. Now, that being stated, I want to bring your attention to, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Okay, so before we get started on how to use the tool, the travel insurance tool, we're going to start with what you should expect to receive when you book your flight. So this information is going to help you tremendously in organizing your itinerary and keeping track of your expenses, as well as helping you to find out how much you need to be insured for. So we're going to go through the lines. Now, of course, I blanked out the names that were used because earlier on, my husband actually encouraged me to do this. He said, I just need on one sheet of paper, everything that is a must need know to do this trip. And so I developed this template for that very purpose. I'm going to remove the distractions because I have emails that are notifications that are coming in, and it's not necessary to have that. Okay, so what you'll have is, of course, this will be tailor made to you. So your name, your address, your email address, all of that will be up top. Here will be your name and I want to say ticket number, your itinerary number, because you have an itinerary number when you purchase airplane tickets, as well as, well, it's not really a ticket number, more of a confirmation number. Your confirmation number I will usually put here because you may have multiple confirmation numbers. Because sometimes to get the best flights, I don't book all of the flights together. There might be separate flights that you have to take. So for instance, I'm just going to give you a scenario. For us, we have had to multiple times because the cheapest flight was out of New York, but it might have had to be a separate flight. So what I would do is I would find a cheap flight from Dallas to New York, and then once we get to New York, we take that next flight. So it's not a connecting flight. These are two completely separate flights. So that means even though you'll be in the airport, you would still have to have a different ticket. So you would then need to, well, and then sometimes you also have, that does actually mean you will have to get your bags if you have them and then recheck in because it sees this as one complete flight by itself. So therefore they're not going to carry your bags from New York to, from that airline in New York to the airline you're going to. Now, if you buy them together as one complete flight, then of course all of that is done smoothly for you. And that is the goal for anyone's trip that I will be booking. Please believe even though I am one who believe in finding the best deals, I also understand you have to balance that with doing things that's going to be most convenient and most expedient for those who you are booking for. So we will be looking for, from the port of choice, from the airport of choice, the airline that will get you to Israel and Tanzania without having to do a lot of separate connecting flights. So anyway, with that being stated, so now I want to show you, I have all these categories, which are date, flight info, location, departure, check-in, arrival, check-out, unit price, and total. So when we start with the date, of course, that's going to be the dates that are involved. So I always start, usually it's going to be first, is where you're going to park your vehicle, because that's the beginning leg of your journey, unless you're, of course, not driving to the airport. So that being the case, I will put how long, from what date to what date you have booked your parking situation, your airport parking. For pre-flight package, I will put that there. Now, of course, some of this you're going to fill in yourself, right? Because I'm not getting your parking and any of that. That is on you. I am getting your ticket. But if you would like to be able to use this template in order to fill in your own information, then I can send this to you as a document, as a Word document, so that you can manipulate it and add things as you need. But this format kind of gives you an idea of how it works, and it's just an easy template to use for traveling. And you definitely need it, you'll find, when you're talking about hotels and having to put down your reservation number and things of that nature. So flight info, airport parking, pre-flight. So your reservation goes here. Pre-flight airport parking. So I usually put here, because this is flight info, but this is also info in general. It's not necessarily just flight info. It also will include things like the name, not the location, but the name of whatever is going here, because it lets you know in this second column, it's going to let you know what the rest of these columns are referring to. So that way you know, oh, okay, this is referring to parking, or this is referring to a hotel. But since in general, when I first did this, it was basically dealing with flights, and then I decided, oh, let me just try to put everything else in as well, and just have this one sheet. It began to grow, and it just seemed cumbersome to have to add into the actual panel flight and or any other additional information or names and things of that nature. So, but anyway, you can put that here. I also put the reservation ID number, because in addition to having the sheet, because I know with parking, you usually have to have the sheet that actually has the scan ID on it for you to, show when you're ready to park your vehicle and get your permit and all this other information. So um, just in case you lose it, some of this will be useful, because some companies only require the ID number or the itinerary number. They're not really needing to have the actual sheet or ticket. Okay, so here's the location. So I know where I'm going. The first leg of this, I know where my address is. I got the phone number in case I need to call to give directions, or in case I have to tell them I'm running late, whatever the case may be. So then we know that this is the time I booked for 10 o'clock a.m. That's when my reservation began. And I check out on November 30th at 6 o'clock p.m. That's why it's from November 18th to November 30th. Okay, and so the unit price was $72.47. This is going to be the same because of what we're talking about. Just like hotels, unit price is going to be the same. But when you get to tickets, then you can actually find out how much it's costing you per person, which is why I'm able to tell you what my average cost has been per person when asked. And so the total is $72.47. So we come down and we see Wednesday. When I start getting to, and you can do this, of course, yourself, add in the actual days of the week. But when I get to the actual ticket, I make sure I make space for that day we're actually leaving. Because sometimes your day might, by the time you get to your next destination, might be the next day. So you have to be able to be clear, okay, oh, I'm going to be coming on Thursday. And that becomes very important when you're booking accommodations, correct? Because you don't want to be booking accommodations for Wednesday when your flight actually won't get there until Thursday. So, and I always separate each leg of the flight. And that's important because they're going to have different flight information for each leg of the flight, so that when you're running through airports in, Germany or Russia or wherever your layover may be, you're able to look at that teleprompter, which is, I've never found a airport I've been to where there wasn't one in English. They have it in different languages, but they would at least have the option also in English, where you can say, hey, this is my flight number, because it's going to be multiple people flying, multiple airliners and airplanes flying generally within that same period of time that's coming from the same location you came from. So you want to be able to identify your plane immediately, and that flight info is what's going to give you what you need. And unless you have an international cell phone, which we will touch on cell phones on another video tutorial, but unless you have an international cell phone, you're only going to have access to the internet if you have Wi-Fi. And sometimes using Wi-Fi in airports internationally can be tricky because of what they require you to do. Requires you to have actual physical service in their country so that you can access PIN codes and numbers they have to put in order to get their free Wi-Fi. So you don't want to be dependent on your specific technology in order to navigate. And you don't want to have to always ask people where to go when you get there, because you're not guaranteed that they're going to speak English, or at least enough English that you'll be able to understand how they're directing you. So being able to quickly figure out where that next connecting flight is going to be critical. And so having that on one sheet of paper is going to be very helpful. Not having to thumb through even a ticket that you may get from the airline, or having to, try to find that screenshot picture that you took through your number of pictures and captures. So yes, this is going to be extremely helpful. Plus, flight times may change. They may get delayed. They might, anything could happen such that you would need to be able to quickly access what's going on with your particular flight. I put the location. I usually use the airport code. So, I left from Houston and I was going to Atlanta. And I tell you when I depart. So I departed at 1:45 p.m. I was to arrive at Atlanta at 4:33 p.m. So it's the same day thing. I put the cost of the flight is going to be put on the first leg of your flight. And then that's it. So any other flights for that total trip, not in-country trips, like in Tanzania, as I stated, there are in-country trips that we took, that would be an additional cost that I would have added into my itinerary. And, which I didn't, because at this point I was doing that while I was on the ground, right? I didn't do that before I left home. So having access to my computer to add those things I didn't do, and I didn't go back and do it because, well, it was no need. I just used what I had. This is more of a functional itinerary. So it cost us $875 per person to go to Tanzania. And so that was a total of $1,750. And of course, that was with a voucher. So we couldn't go to Israel. That's a long story. But anyway, point was, we were able to use, that's how much of our voucher that was used in order to make this trip. Okay, so then here we see exactly what I'm talking about, where there's a Wednesday I'm leaving from Atlanta, but I'm arriving on a Thursday at 8:15 a.m. So you definitely want to make sure that you accommodate that appropriately on your list. Okay, so then I had another flight. So we see here I went from Atlanta to Amsterdam. I arrived at Amsterdam at 8:15 a.m. I had another flight, so I didn't actually get to Tanzania until Friday, which should have been the 20th here. So let me correct that on my list. That should have been the 20th. So I got there on Friday, and Okay, so no, that actually was right. This is what's wrong. It wasn't Thursday. I got there on Thursday. Huh. Okay, so yeah. So at 10:05 a.m. I left. So as you can see, I didn't have a lot of wiggle room from Amsterdam to find this plane and to get on it. So at 10:05 a.m. I had to be on the plane because we get ready to leave. And you basically have to board about 45 minutes before. So technically I had an hour to get from wherever the airplane landed to the airplane I was going to. And so I arrived in Tanzania. Well, actually I arrived in Kilimanjaro. JRO is for Kilimanjaro, which is in Tanzania at 8:25 p.m. And from 8:25 p.m. I got to okay, so from November 19th, okay, so from Kilimanjaro to Dar es Salaam, 9:35 p.m. I had to be on the airplane at 9:35 p.m. before 9:35 p.m. so that I could catch my flight, and I'll be there an hour later into Dar es Salaam. So now here's something else you need to know, just a little factoid. Even if your goal is to say, I want to see Kilimanjaro first, and you happen to have a layover in Kilimanjaro, and you decide, well, I might as well just stay in Kilimanjaro. Why go all the way to Dar? I'm not going to Dar. I could save myself some money and save myself that trip. And I can just stay in Kilimanjaro, stay overnight, go to, see the mountain, and then I can catch another flight to Dar es Salaam. I'm going to tell you why that's a bad idea, or at least an idea you need to check with your airline before you make it, because if you decide to interrupt your flight schedule, especially this is important on your departure flight from your country. In other words, this is the first part of your round trip ticket, not when you're coming back home. But if you decide, oh, I'm just going to not get on that plane, you are considered a no-show, and they will cancel your whole ticket, which means you will have to buy a whole separate ticket to get yourself home. So trust me, you will much rather pay the $25 or $30 it's going to cost you from Dar to go back to Kilimanjaro or Arusha to get to Kilimanjaro, then you are going to want to have to buy a ticket to get yourself back to your home. Um, so, that being stated, I'm going to go on down. Okay, so as you can see, we're down to now my hotels. So here I'm going to put the name of the hotel. I put how long I'm going to stay from a Thursday, November 24th, until Sunday, November 29th. I'm at the Seychelles Motel, right? And so I'm going to put my itinerary number, all that information that I need to give them, should they not be able to find me by my name. I'm going to put the address there because I'm going to want to tell the taxi where I'm going. I'm not going to take for granted that they're going to know where Seychelles Millennium Hotel is, because just like over here, they have over there something that's like Uber. They mostly use taxis, but now they do have something that's like Uber. So you just don't want to, think that the people who are taxiing you around, they do this all day long for a living, or this is what they've done for years and years and years. The day of a yellow taxi cab company is almost, virtually gone at this point. You have so many other competing app-based programs that can offer you more affordable rates. But it's just like anything else. When you start going into commercialized things, or things where people who are doing this, they're doing it just for extra money. They're not this has not been a lifelong thing for them. They may do something else, and they do this on the side. So they're not going to necessarily know where everything is, even in their own country. So you don't want to take for granted that they do. And so you want to have that information to give them, just in case there is, that it's going to be needed. And having it all on one sheet means you're not fumbling around through your luggage trying to find that information, or going through, sheets and sheets of paper. Now, I do also bring the actual a printout of all of my information. So I have a print. I usually have my printout for the hotel I'm staying in. I usually have my printout for each flight I take, anything that my parking, insurance, all of that. You always want to have that, but you don't necessarily want to show all of that, nor do you want to be fumbling for it because you don't want to misplace any of it. And usually I like to have an order in how I have things based on where I'm going and what I'm doing in my folder. So um, anyway, that's just something for you to know. So I put in when you have to check in and when you have to check out. So check-in time was 11, check-out time was 11. Um, and the cost was $47 for an executive suite. Okay, so which came out to $171.57 for from Thursday to Sunday. Okay, so as you see here, the main thing is when you get to the balance. When you get to the balance, you find out how much everything cost you. And as you can see, in my situation, everything cost somewhere around $2,095.53. That was what my cost was. That's the price you want to put here. Now, we first want to make sure everything that we're wanting is something that's coverable. So our flight is coverable. Now, what you would have to do, because this was my travel insurance policy number and the travel insurance. So I would have to take out the $102 because they're not going to reimburse you for your policy. So you would subtract the $102 from your $2,095, which would bring you to somewhere around $1,993. This is what you could actually get back because everything else that's here is something that you can get your money back for in the event that you had to cancel your flight. So then you would put your trip cost will be a total of $1,993. That's the total trip cost. You can do cost per person. Either one. Total trip cost per person. I usually do total trip cost. You want to put your main destination. Yeah, your main destination is the primary place you're going. It's not going to be in our case we got two places we're going. So I would just put Israel. But if I was going to just one, in other words, they're saying like if you have a layover, even if it's a 24-hour layover or a 48-hour layover or even a 72-hour layover, but the bulk of your trip is going to be spent somewhere else. You want to put where the bulk of your trip is going to be spent. What's the end destination, the end goal of your travel experience? And so then you would put Israel because that is where you're going to go. And since it's two places, I would just put Israel. Okay, then you would put trip dates. You would say when you're leaving home and when you're returning home. That's to cover everything that's included. Number of travelers. So you want to do a comprehensive trip. Unlike what you're usually getting, and sometimes you do get for comprehensive, but oftentimes it's a per person. And so you will see $30 per person, but then you have to double that because if it's two of you, that's $60. So here you would put the number of people who are coming, and then you would have to put their ages so you can calculate what the expense would be because your travel age makes a difference in the cost of your insurance. And it makes sense if you think about it. I mean, what's the chances of a person who's older having a situation where they may need to have medical attention or something could happen to them, you know, in flight is a much greater than someone who is younger. So it just makes perfect sense that the older you are, the greater your expense would be. Permanent residence. You want to put your state, and then you get a quote. So I'm just going to give you a scenario. And one little fact, another reason why you want to get your money in and your ticket in as soon as possible and begin planning your itinerary is the closer you get to the date of your trip, the more expensive your flight gets. And I can show you that scenario. So let's just use the number we had. Okay, we're going to say Israel is our spot, right? And we're going to say we're leaving home May 24th, and we're returning home June 10th. Okay, and we're doing this for 2 people. Okay, and one person may be 40. The other person may be 60. Okay, you're living in, it doesn't matter, Indiana, United States. And the date that you made your initial trip, let's say it was the 11th. So now we're going to get a quote. Okay. So now what's going to populate is a list of options for your plans. Okay. So it's going to vary in pricing. You can choose to get the lowest to the highest. You can choose one that has trip interruption, which means that you have to cut your trip short for any reason. We've had that happen where death of a loved one, so I had to come back home and I had to interrupt my trip. This is for that. Um, and when so it says trip interruption highest to lowest. Okay. So yeah, the highest price for insurance for trip interruption to the lowest. The medical evacuation highest to lowest. Emergency medical. Okay, so you want to have medical evacuation. You know, if something happens and you need to get back home, you don't want to be treated there. And so there's like a special flight situation, or if you're somewhere and air the best hospital requires a flight from where you're at to the hospital that can attend to your needs, you want to have that covered. Because just like here, if you your insurance company typically does not cover ambulance coming to your house, taking you to the hospital, which means you pay out of pocket for that, which is the reason why most people try to just take their loved ones themselves to avoid that added expense. Um, so imagine if you're having to be medically evacuated. Now you're talking about taking a plane or something. You know, you're talking about just a ambulance coming to wherever you are. You're talking about, oh, okay, now I got to be airlifted. That expense could be tremendous. So insurance provider, you can do it by insurance provider. So this is just ways that you can sort and look through. If you have a specific insurance company that you just know you feel more comfortable working with, then you can choose based on that. So you may be an Alliance fan. If you prefer Alliance, that's who I want to do insurance with, but I want the best possible policy with Alliance, then that would be the option you would choose. Baggage loss, that's of a higher priority to you. You want to be, because you're carrying stuff, you carrying millions of dollars worth of stuff in your bag. You want to be able to get the maximum amount of money back in case something happens to it. Number of customer reviews, that would be an important one, because what good is getting insurance if you're not going to get your money back if you need it, and it's not going to cover the things that you need covered. So you want to see what customers have said. Well, how easy is the process? I mean, there are some insurance companies I would not do business with again, because they make it so difficult for you to get your money. You had to cancel your trip, or your trip was canceled or interrupted, or we've had this where the airline canceled your flight, and so you had to leave earlier than you intended, and so you suffered a loss of a day worth of your trip. So, how do you get that back? And they can send you through a whole lot of channels, and those channels may seem like, oh, they're no big deal, until you're having to deal with airlines that's overseas and trying to get them to send you information that you are going to now have to forward to someone who speaks English, and you're getting this information from someone who does not. So it's a lot of challenges that can occur when you start talking about international flights. And we can't take for granted that everyone speaks English just because we do, or that they handle or operate in a organized way the way we do. And so compensating for all the time and effort you got to put into just trying to get money back for a service that you paid for in the event something like this may happen. So customer reviews, that's important. So you want to know how many people reviewed it, because without any reviews, you don't know what you're getting. Now then you have customer ratings, which you want the ones that have the highest possible ratings for what you're trying to get. Okay. And so then you can also compare plans. So you can select a number of plans and say, okay, let me compare it. You can narrow your search so that you want to make sure it has exactly what you want. You want something that has a pre-existing condition exclusion waiver. If you want to know what that is, you can also find that out. Cancel for any reason. That's going to be important. You want to be able to cancel for whatever reason. You just decide COVID is out there. I don't really want to deal with it. And so I'm just not going to go. You want to be able to have that option. Accidental death and dismemberment. These are different things that if they're important to you in a policy, you want to select it. It'll help you narrow your search and make your decision. And so that's what I appreciate about these plans. And so there's 19 choices. And as you can see, it's multiple different people you can choose from. They got different reviews. Some companies you may have never heard of, others you may know well. So you get to choose the option of what you want, what kind of coverage, how much coverage. It's not being pre-decided for you as it is in a pre-packaged plan if you purchase your air flight insurance through a third-party carrier, which multiple of the options that you're going to have to look at, because the best deals often comes from third-party carriers, which is why I said the biggest issue and the reason why you want the insurance is because you're getting it dirt cheap for a reason. The pricing is competitive for a reason. And so when you're dealing with third party, there are two things you can almost guarantee. One of them is you're typically, for additional services, going to pay more if you get it through them than you would from getting it from the airline. The only thing that's going to be cheaper by and large than you getting it from direct from the airline is going to be the ticket price. Now, as it relates to optional services, most companies, as long as you have the confirmation number for your trip, you can manage your booking on the actual website. So if we buy from a third party, for instance, United Airline tickets, if you want to add baggage later on, you choose not to add it with the third party carrier, you can go onto United Airlines website and you can put in your confirmation number, and usually it's like something like your last name, and you can go in and you can buy optional services such as seats, such as extra baggage. Any of these things you can purchase direct from them. If you want to upgrade your seat, if they have upgrade packages, all of that you can purchase direct and at a different time and with your own money. The only thing you wouldn't be able to necessarily add on from the host or the primary website would be insurance, which is why we're covering it now. The insurance option is typically only given to you, which is why they use this pressure kill that says, oh, if you do not select this option now, you will not be able to add, you will not be able to add it on later. Well, that's okay. You don't need to add it. You don't need to select it now. You don't need to go for the pressure. You can just add on later. And that's what we're going to elect to do. At least that's what I always elect to do. Because I find, again, that it's cheaper by and large when you consider what you're getting, and you get to know more of what you're getting. You get to read the whole policy, because when you're in a position where you've got to click this button within seconds, because otherwise you can lose the price of that flight, that's what they're depending on. You're not going to read through the policy. You're not going to even look at an overview like this to even know what's the breakdown of how much I'm getting for this in the case of this, like medical evacuation, I'm gonna get 200,000 per person. Bam. Emergency medical, you don't get all of that. What you get is a one line sentence that basically says, click yes for insurance coverage, and then it has in smaller print something that says, if you do not select this option now, it will not be available for you later. But with getting that, you don't know exactly what you're getting. You don't know exactly what you're getting, what they're covering. But what I do know from experience is that if you don't hurry up and get that ticket, you can lose that ticket within seconds. So while you're trying to figure out if this is the best price, you've already lost the ticket. So now you're going to be paying more for the ticket, which could be hundreds of dollars just in those few seconds, just so that you can, you know, get insurance that's just going to cover your flight anyway. And so then you could have just gone ahead and said, nope, I'm not getting your insurance. Click the little button. And this is why we're discussing this now, because we don't want to have these kind of questions when I'm at the crunch time getting ready to get your ticket. And we're not going to have those kind of questions because, again, your $2,023 covers the ticket only. Well, not only. Again, it's not just only, but it's not going to cover any optional plans. When I go to look for your ticket, I'm just getting your ticket. I'm not getting any bells and whistles that they're offering, because many of them do. And I will have a tutorial on that, because many of these will say, you know, especially when going with third party vendors, they're going to say things like, you know, for extra $10 per person, you can have flexible tickets, or for an extra $20 per person, you can have where you can have customer support, and that's included in. And if you have any problems, you have a direct line where you can call. Otherwise, you're going to just have to be able to navigate yourself through the emails they give you in order to get your ticket and the check-in and all of that, which all of that is unnecessary, because you're going to check in anyway with the actual airline. Your information is going to be basically based on going to whatever airline you're taking, whether it's Turkish Airline, Royal Caribbean Airline, I'm sorry, Royal Jordanian Airline, not Royal Caribbean. Whether you're going with United, Delta, any of those, you're going to go to that website to do anything else, to find out what you need to know. Flight information, what they have for you. So that's not even something to be concerned with. That's just extra stuff that they provide to get more money. So again, because they're trying to recoup some of what they're losing. You know, it's not like they're all this money is going to them. They're getting these tickets from the actual companies for a lesser price, just so they can dump those tickets to get those seats filled. So they're getting a little kickback, but it's the majority of your money is going to whoever's flying you where you're going, whether it's through Star Alliance or One World or whatever group of affiliated airlines are connected together. This is who's getting that money. So I just wanted you to understand some of the science behind it, so that way in the future, whether it's with me or you booking yourself, you don't have to put yourself through the pressure of having to figure out, you know, what will and will not be covered. That's not something you have to do. Best thing for you to do is to go through here and to find the one that meets the criteria that you have. And so here you also get to find out about that COVID-19 frequently asked questions. These are things. So I'm just saying, these are things you want to be able to know. You want to be able to get what you want. You don't want to have to do a whole lot of reading. You don't want to read through a book to find out every single detail. You want to be able to look at a glance view, and this website does a phenomenal job of helping you with that. They even have a learning center and travel tips. So you have all that you need here. Your claims, anything you need to know, you can get from this particular website. So I hope this has helped you to kind of see overall. um, what is accessible. I know for me, it was just a blessing to be able to navigate this part of the planning process and to find this particular website, and they have been very effective for me. They immediately will send you an email once you make your purchase that has all the information you need to know for your trip. And it's not a book, of course it's small print and multiple pages usually, but it's not a whole book. And again, the main details you want to know, you can find out here. I mean, you can click on anything to get more information. What covers details, definitions, and exclusions. I mean, again, so you can go directly to what you're looking for. You don't have to navigate through a whole list of things that's not separated. It separates it out for you. What trip cancellation mean? You can find out what any of these things mean by just clicking on it. You can click here and find out what their COVID-19 frequently asked questions are. Um, you can click here to compare plans if you're not sure if this is what you want. You can click here to read reviews. How many people recommended it? Or you can just look at it here. And so I'm just saying, you can find out it's 5-star reviews. You got who the company is. You can find out what their ratings are. You can get a quote, an email quote. You can get more information. I mean, so everything you need is right here. And it's in a very easy to use fashion. And I'm telling you, you're going to want things that's efficient when you already bombarded with so many other decisions you got to make just to get on the plane and get to wherever else you got to go. There's so many other things that you got to think about that you want to be able to have this done with, and you want to be able to have your questions answered quickly. And this website allows you to do that. Now, I may do a follow-up video on um, insurance for those who may have more, want to have more of their concerns dealing with certain things. Like I would like to do a video possibly on the COVID-19 frequently asked questions. What does that include with the travel insurance? Because that is something that's new to the world as far as how does that affect travel and what things we need to be looking out for. Because I do know that after they've kind of gotten a handle on this whole pandemic thing, that airline restrictions begin to come back into play. So it's important to stay aware of what the current restraints are and what the current policies are. So I would like to possibly do a separate video on that at some point. But for now, I think this is enough to help you kind of understand how you would navigate getting your own flight. I'm sorry, getting your own insurance. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And please continue to tune in to The Travelplex for more videos for your future trip.